All right, folks, today is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, a juror, a grand juror in the Breonna Taylor case, said the grand jury didn't agree that her shooting was justified. Wait until we give you these details. Also, folks, we continue to push voter participation with the conversation with Joyce Elliott. She's a candidate for Congress from Arkansas. Tyler Perry is going to help fund a $500,000 black voter mobilization effort in Florida. We'll talk with the founder of Equal Ground, the organizer of Souls to the Polls Florida. We'll also tell you about the Biden campaign's plan for HBCU week and preview tomorrow night's presidential debate. President Barack Obama is in Philadelphia. We'll show you what he had to say about the Biden-Harris campaign and specifically what he said to black men. Also, folks, we'll show you some of the interviews from yesterday when I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Durham and Greensboro, talking with folks who are trying to get the vote out in the Tar Heel state. Plus, hashtag #EndSARS is a protest that started in Nigeria and is growing across the United States. We'll talk with one of the organizers of the protest here in Washington, D.C. And Larenz Tate is here to promote his new movie, Business Ethics. In our Black Tech segment, the founder of Goodie Nation will tell us about funds for black-led tech startups. All that and more, plus the latest anti-Donald Trump ads and a new ad from Joe Biden, voiced by actor Sam Elliott. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
A grand juror who heard evidence in the Breonna Taylor probe said yesterday that the grand jury didn't agree that the fatal shooting was justified. Now, this came after a Kentucky judge ordered records in the proceedings released to show if public elected officials are being honest. In a statement, grand juror number one, as a person has been identified, said that the only charge presented during the proceedings by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron was wanton endangerment. Former Louisville police officer, Detective Brett Hankinson, was indicted last month on that charge for firing shots into the apartment of Taylor's neighbors. Now, again, Daniel Cameron came out and he said that any number of things and gave the impression that this is what the grand jury decided. But that is not what this grand juror is now revealing. Let's go to my panel. A. Scott Bolden, former chair of National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Robert Patillo, executive director of the Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project. And Kelly Bethea, communication strategist. Scott, I will start with you. To hear this grand juror come out with this statement here, basically what it shows is Daniel Cameron is a damn liar, and he tried to pull the wool over the face of everyone and not wanting us to know what really happened in that grand jury proceeding.
Well, yes and no. As soon as we found out it was not an investigative grand jury, then you knew whatever the prosecutor puts in before the grand jury, they're going to vote on. He didn't put in everything. He didn't put in all the witnesses. He put in what he thought he could prove. And so essentially, this investigation, this commission, the specialty, if you will, simply wasn't special at all. It was like any other prosecutor putting in a grand jury what they believe that they can prove. And so that's not justice for Breonna Taylor. That's not reality, if you will. He chose witnesses who said the police announced themselves. There are 10 others that said that they didn't. That's a huge fact and a huge difference. He didn't put those 10 witnesses in. And so this just simply confirms what we suspected or what we knew already. There needs to be a new prosecution or a new special prosecutor, and two, a new grand jury, because what they didn't present, including murder charges or even manslaughter charges, that needs to be presented and let the grand jury figure it out.
Look, bottom line here, Robert. Again, Daniel Cameron tried to think all of us were boo boo the fool. He comes out with this news conference. He makes this announcement. All this grandstanding. When the reality is, he operated more as the defense attorney for these cops.
Well, normally grand jury proceedings are secret. Normally they're not recorded. Normally this information never comes out. And so the question is, how many other times has this happened under his watch and under other prosecutors' watch? That's why we have a need for federal legislation and federal intervention in local prosecutions. This is why during the Obama administration there were so many consent decrees entered into between the federal government and local law enforcement. Because part of the issue that we run into is, simply put, that local biases and the predilections of the prosecutor determine what justice is in this country. There is no hard set fact pattern which can ensure that we will get justice if one of us is killed or murdered. And it's completely incumbent upon either the local district attorney or the state's attorney, depending on your jurisdiction, or the attorney general in the state to bring justice. And in this case, because we do not have an operational civil rights division of the Justice Department, there is no hope for federal intervention either. What Mr. Cameron did was pick and choose the charges that he will present, and instead of allowing a jury of our peers to decide whether or not these officers were guilty of murder, he made the unilateral decision that he wasn't even going to bring up the subject. So, of course, a special prosecutor should be appointed. Of course, the case should be reopened, and we should look at it again. And also, these indictments do not have to come from a grand jury. They can come from a preliminary hearing in front of a judge where the information was produced. The prosecution announces in open court what the charges are, what the evidence is, and a judge can decide in open court in front of the entire community whether or not charges will go forward. So there are various methods within the law by which we can address these issues, but I think what we all can realize from this is that a miscarriage of justice has happened and something has to be done to remedy it.
This, though, is the problem that people have with district attorneys. And the issue here is not, oh, if we get a black DA, things will change. This is a black attorney general, but he's also a right-wing Republican. And so this is what people mean by having progressive district attorneys, progressive attorney generals, and the word progressive has never been used with Republicans.
Well, the saying goes, all skin folk and kinfolk, and that rings true, especially in this case. I mean, we saw with our own eyes exactly what Daniel Cameron thinks of his job, thought of this case, and really thinks of Black people in general by being so callous and frankly reckless with his power as prosecutor to have a grand jury hearing. Like my colleague on this panel have said previously, a grand jury is supposed to be a positive tool for the prosecutor to basically lay out all the facts that they have and make their case without any interruption or opposition in the room. Daniel Cameron used that to his advantage, but not in the best way in the interest of the victim, who is Breonna Taylor in this case. I agree with Robert when he talked about the preliminary hearing method. I personally thought that would have been a better method in this case, considering how public it was, considering the outrage that the community and the country at large really had towards this case, and rightfully so. I find that Daniel Cameron's usage of the grand jury proceedings was actually insidious by way of what we saw the outcome to be, being that now we know that he didn't even present all the evidence there was. He really did do the job of a defender, public defender, or just outside of his office. He was not working in the best interest of the victim, which to me says that he was not doing his job at all.
So, all right, Scott. So what next? I mean, well, first of all, hold on. No, wait. So here's the question. Can there be another grand jury? Who actually impanels that grand jury? This was the attorney general acting as a special prosecutor. Or do we have to simply accept what this grand jury went with and just say, oh, well, wanton endangerment, let's see what happens?
There certainly can be another grand jury. There certainly can be another special prosecutor. But my concern about the case
Wait. But you didn't fully answer the question. If it can be, who actually makes that decision?
it would be the attorney general, it would be the local prosecutor, or the governor
So,
in
so
the
what you're
state of Kentucky.
so you're saying that because a grand jury was impaneled here, that was led by the Kentucky Attorney General as special prosecutor. You're saying
Yeah.
that the district attorney could say, "I'm going to impanel a second
Yeah.
grand jury, and I will present the evidence to the grand jury."
Yeah, or the governor could appoint another
Okay.
special prosecutor. It's all about political will. But you see, what happens with the prosecutor, whether it's the AG or the district attorney, is on one hand, they're going to argue, this is the counter argument. If I do an investigatory grand jury and they want to bring 3 counts of murder against the police officers, and the facts as I know them as a prosecutor and with my discretion, if I can't make that out, why am I presenting that and going to go to trial and know I'm going to lose under the law, whether it's a jury or a judge dismisses the charges? What do I do about that? I'm not making a case for the black attorney general in Kentucky. What I'm saying is that's the tension and the struggle that we've got to manage through as lawyers and judges. If you give it to the grand jury or you do a preliminary hearing, you still get all the evidence out. Let the judge decide or let another grand jury decide, but at least it's all in there. What bugs you most about this case is that all the facts haven't been presented and all of the decisions haven't been made on all the facts. That's what needs to happen here.
Robert.
Well, look, prosecutors bring bullshit cases to trial all the time. About 90% of the criminal justice system is
They
based
don't
on
want
that.
to, though.
There
They don't like it.
There are plenty of black men in jail right now on BS charges from a BS grand jury and a BS prosecutor where they were able to convince the jury based on some factor that they are guilty. So this idea that somehow they would not present a case because they didn't think they could win, that's most of what prosecutors do. As a defense attorney, I will say, present cases they know that either they should have pled or that they could not have won. He had no political will to do so. His interest was in protecting those officers, and that is why he presented the case as necessary. Because what we see from the grand jury is, this grand juror who's come forward is, he didn't even give the grand jury the opportunity to consider the questions of murder, to consider manslaughter, to consider wanton homicide, to consider criminal neglect of duty and those sorts of things. So I think what has to happen, and we saw this in the Ahmaud Arbery case here in Georgia, where you had the first prosecutor punt, you had a second prosecutor punt, you had a third prosecutor ready to punt, and then the state AG came in for charges. So there are always more bites of the apple, and we have to take them.
So, Robert, if he put everything in and it was an investigatory grand jury or the preliminary hearing, he gets all the facts in and the judge dismisses it or the grand jury dismisses it, what's your argument then? Are you at peace as a lawyer that everything's been done, or is there still no justice for Breonna Taylor?
We'll have a full public airing of the facts. People know, instead of having these secret hearings, these secret chambers where we don't know what evidence was produced, we're counting on leaks from grand jurors and unprecedented court hearings to find out. The entire basis of our criminal justice system is getting out of that concept of a star chamber, getting out of those medieval inquisitionary tactics where we have no idea what justice actually is. If Lady Liberty, if the scales of justice are going to be blind, then there has to be a public accounting of what happened, testimony, evidence, and then we can accept that decision. But what we can't accept is you never even tried to prosecute these people because politically you want to be the next Supreme Court justice for Donald Trump, or you want to take Mitch McConnell's seat, so you'll let these officers go and let Breonna Taylor die in vain. That is not how our system is built.
Kelly,
I agree.
What Daniel Cameron did was a path of least resistance.
No, he absolutely did that, and I agree with Robert here. And I'm a lawyer as well. I just do not lawyer. But
Smart lady.
Good idea.
I'm sorry. Hold up. I'm a lawyer, but I don't lawyer.
I work in policy. I'm not in court.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm trying to figure out what the hell that meant.
Roland, leave her
They
alone.
understood the joke.
There
They
you go.
understood the joke.
You started
JD is a very broad degree.
She said, "I'm a lawyer. I don't lawyer." I just want to know what the hell that means.
We knew what it meant.
Well, hey, Scott, it ain't your show, so it don't matter what you think.
Here we go.
I want to clarify that for the audience. Kelly, go.
It's clarified now, right? But no, I wanted to echo Robert's sentiment here, specifically when it comes to grand jury proceedings. As the saying goes, you can indict a ham sandwich at a grand jury proceeding. And that means that the prosecutor is literally at liberty to give everything, the kitchen sink, the whole infrastructure of the house, to the grand jury, and they are able to come up with the case and build the case in front of the grand jury, and the grand jury is more or less is supposed to follow. So that's why this is so infuriating to myself and plenty of other people, especially in the legal community, because we know how easy it is to get an indictment in front of a grand jury. All the prosecutor has to do is to present the evidence, all of it, and the charges, all of them, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to get it. So what is so frustrating here is the fact that, like Robert said, he didn't even try. That wasn't even presented. He didn't give the kitchen sink. He barely gave a fork to this grand jury in terms of what this case is about. So that's what the frustrating thing is here. And that's why we are calling for either a new grand jury or a preliminary hearing, and specifically a special prosecutor who is not Daniel Cameron.
All right, folks, let's talk about, of course, huge, what we're in the middle of, 12 days until Election Day. Folks have been voting all across this country, massive numbers we have been seeing. Don't forget, folks, we have some voter registration deadlines. Let's show those right now. Then we're going to show you where you have same-day voting. Early voting has already started in a number of states. Today, of course, it is October 21st, okay? And then it began today in West Virginia. But you see all of the states there where early voting begins. New York is next, the 24th, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Oklahoma. Now, let's show the places where you can still register to vote while you are same-day voter registration. Now, folks, is this, I want to make sure we're off graphics, folks, is this the current same-day voter registration, or is this same-day voter registration on November 3rd? Okay, y'all need to remove this graphic then. Show our people what is the registration. So get another graphic made, do it tomorrow. We need to show them same-day registration. There are 2 same-day voter registrations, folks. There's one voter registration where you can actually register during early voting. The second one is same-day registration on election as well. Now, these are the voter registration deadlines for those where you don't have early voting, okay? The deadlines, again, I need us to do a new graphic and wipe out everything before today. So the deadlines for October 23rd in Utah is October 23rd. If you're in Iowa and Massachusetts, your deadline is October 24th. If you're in Colorado, Montana, and Washington State, your deadline is October 26th. And for Connecticut, your deadline is October 27th. So that's what we got going on right there. All right, folks, we're going to do this. We're going to go to a break. So folks are saying we're seeing some buffering, if you will, on our feed on YouTube. So I'm going to go to a commercial break. Then we'll be back with the candidate for Congress in Arkansas on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Not a God. The members of the Congress, they are mortals, not God. Bow down. Stand up again. We will march again. We will preach again. We will organize again. We are black. We are white. We are Latino. We are Native American. We are Republican. We are independent. We are of faith. We are not of faith. We are natives and immigrants and the uninsured.